Over the weekend, I will continue to release daily statements to keep Canadians updated with the latest numbers and to provide links, information and resources about COVID-19 exposure risks and the precautions that we can all take to prevent exposure and spreading the virus. Don't lose hope. Stay the course and keep being part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tam. I'll go next. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carla Qualtrough. I'm the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Disability Inclusion. I'm with you today to talk about two very important things: what people can expect in the fall as it relates to the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, NEI, and additional supports for temporary foreign workers and their employers. We've recently seen an economic restart in some sectors, but we know that there's still a long way to go. Many Canadian workers continue to face challenges during this time, and as the Prime Minister said this morning, we will continue to be there for them. In September, we will be moving as many Canadians as possible from the CERB onto employment insurance. Our EI system is ready, and there'll be no disruption of benefits.
For those who still do not have access to it, like contract workers, we will be developing a transition benefit that is similar to EI. For those workers who are sick with COVID-19 or who have responsibilities as caregivers, there will be benefits for them as well. And there will not be an increase in premiums for employment insurance during these difficult times.
More details to share about how people will be able to access these new supports in the coming weeks. Rest assured, we will continue to work tirelessly as we support Canadians in the transition back to work. I look forward to sharing more on this in the near future. I'd now like to talk about the additional supports for temporary foreign workers and their employers. Since the beginning of the pandemic, our government has been focused on keeping Canadians safe and getting them the help they need to get through this crisis. We've also undertaken significant actions to support Canada's continued food security while safeguarding the health and safety of Canadian and temporary foreign workers. Despite these efforts, as well as those undertaken by employers and workers participating in the temporary foreign worker program, there have been COVID-19 outbreaks on some Canadian farms. I'm truly saddened to hear about these workers who have become ill or passed away due to COVID-19. My thoughts continue to be with them and their families. While most employers in the temporary foreign worker program follow the rules and have taken important steps to help mitigate the risks of COVID-19 in their workplaces, there are reported cases of inappropriate behavior and unsafe working conditions. We take this very seriously and have been looking at additional steps we could take in order to better protect temporary foreign workers in Canada. Today, we are announcing additional action to protect workers and reduce the incidence and impact of COVID-19 outbreaks on farms with an investment of approximately $58 million. With this funding, we are increasing outreach to temporary foreign workers and strengthening our inspection regimes. This is about workers' rights and employers' obligations. We are also providing further assistance to employers in the case of an outbreak and increasing funding to help farmers put in place proactive health and safety measures. In addition, we are developing a coordinated national approach to employer-provided accommodations for temporary foreign workers. This includes working with provinces and territories, employers, workers, and foreign partner countries on national guidelines for on-site accommodations. It also includes developing mandatory requirements for employer-provided accommodation as a condition of the temporary foreign worker program.
We know that there still remain important questions that need to be answered in the context of the temporary foreign worker program, and we are taking concrete action. The rights of workers are at the heart of the investments we're announcing today and will continue to be in the future. Thank you.
I'll now pass it over to my colleague, la ministre Marie-Claude Bibeau.
Minister Marie-Claude Bibeau.
Merci, Carla.
Thank you, Carla. Good day, everyone. I'm Marie-Claude Bibeau, Minister for Agriculture and Agri-Food, and I am pleased to be here with Minister Qualtrough to announce the new measures relating to temporary foreign workers in agriculture. Canadians, men and women alike, have the privilege of having access to good food even during a pandemic, and that is because of the hard work of our farm producers, of their employees, including temporary foreign workers. We care about the well-being of these essential workers, and we want to do more to protect them. The vast majority of producers do care about their employees deeply, but it is imperative that each and every temporary foreign worker have a work environment and a workplace that guarantees their safety and their human dignity. And this is why today we are announcing over $58 million to avoid and limit the consequences of COVID-19 outbreaks in our farms. On the one hand, an investment of $7.4 million is being earmarked for migrant worker support organizations to increase outreach in their own languages and improve workers' understanding of how to protect themselves from COVID-19, their rights in the workplace, services available to them, as well as information on how to access health, income, and emergency supports.
To increase outreach and improve workers' understanding on how to protect themselves from COVID-19, their rights in the workplace, services available to them, as well as information on how to access health, income, and emergency supports when needed. Through a $16.2 million investment, the Government of Canada is immediately expanding the scope and the number of inspections, with a focus on employers who hire workers who are at higher risk or vulnerable to COVID-19. $16.2 million serviront à augmenter la
$16.2 million, that will expand the scope and number of inspections by most high-risk farms. Finally, a $35 million envelope will allow producers to do a 50-50 cost share to improve their facilities and provide safe workplaces and living environments. These amounts could, among other things, help to purchase PPEs, redesign workplaces and living quarters, and absorb part of the exceptional costs associated to an outbreak. Over the coming months, we will also be working with representatives from the industry, provinces, territories, and our foreign partners in order to develop new national standards.
$5 million to share with producers the cost of additional on-farm measures, including living quarters that will improve the health and safety of all workers and limit the spread of COVID-19. Step by step, the government is giving our farmers, food processors, and workers the support they need to continue their vital work. Thank you to everyone working hard to supply Canadians with high-quality Canadian food. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ministers. Merci beaucoup. We will now turn it over to questions. On va passer par la période de questions. We will start by the phone. Commencer par la téléphone. 3 questions with 1 follow-up. 3 questions suivies par 1 question de suivi. Operator, please, can you queue up our first question?
Thank you. Merci. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. S'il vous plaît, appuyez sur étoile 1 maintenant pour poser une question. And the first question, la première question est de Teresa Wright from the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Hi. My first question is for Minister Qualtrough about the moving people from the CERB onto EI. Can you explain how the EI system is going to handle this influx of people? Federal officials didn't believe that it could handle it when we started seeing the unemployment levels going up in March and April, and now what's changed, especially given that we're talking about millions of EI-eligible people on the CERB, plus the possibility of further job losses if companies don't survive.
Well, thank you for the really important question. Absolutely, mid-March, the EI system was not in a place, was not able to take in the number of EI applications that were being, tossed its way. And we've worked, officials have worked tirelessly over the past 5 months to remedy that. So we are very confident now that the system is ready. We can take in those high volumes of people without a disruption in benefits. We've been able to automate a lot of processes. We've simplified and streamlined some of the intake procedures. We have done some of the work already for a lot of people because we have records of employment for a number of people who say would have been EI eligible. I could list so many of the things that have been done, but at the end of the day, it's been tested and tried and tested, and I can assure Canadians that it's ready to take in probably around 4 million applications at the beginning of September. Thank you.
Thank you. My other question is for Minister Bibeau on the money for migrant workers. Can you just clarify, first of all, if this means that inspectors will actually be going in person to perform inspections, because we've learned that they were doing remote visits through the pandemic? And also, how do you counter the perception that government has been slow and ineffective at ensuring that the safety and security of these workers during COVID-19 because of the economic needs of farmers?
Minister Bibeau, you're on mute.
Okay. Do you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we have been working closely with the provinces and the local health services to try to protect our workers, and this is because Minister Qualtrough might want to add, since it falls under a responsibility, but I know that most of the farmers have been taking that responsibility. They care for their employers, and they have put in place all the necessary measures to protect their employers, starting with the 14-day isolation period, and then putting in place, additional measures to protect them while they started working.
Thank you. And perhaps I'll add, the inspections are in person already. We're doing more of them. We're broadening the scope of what they're focusing on during these inspections. Of course, when workers first began to arrive, the focus of inspections was on the quarantine measures. We now have workers here. They've gone through quarantine, and in fact, they're getting sick. So of course, our inspections are broader, and we've got a more scope, and we're doing more of them. So increased number, increased scope, and a more immediate reaction to circumstances as they arrive. This is in addition to the assessments that are being done by Public Health Agency with the SDC and the province and local health authorities when an outbreak happens on a particular farm.
Thank you very much. Operator, next question.
Thank you. The next question, la prochaine question est de Catherine Lévesque de la Presse canadienne. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
The Canadian Press. Yes, good afternoon to everyone. I was wondering how many temporary foreign workers have actually died to date. If you don't have that data, why not? Based on my memory, I've been informed of 3 cases, but certainly there are various ways in which this information is shared with the various services and with our information sharing with the consulates and embassies. So 3 questions, so 3 cases in the entire country. And my question is similar to my colleagues. Why did you wait until July 31st to grant this new funding to support these farms, whereas they've been asking for help for months now? They're asking for national standards as far as the welcoming of these foreign workers. Why wait so long? Answer. This program is extremely complex. We work in cooperation with our colleague, the Minister for Immigration, Minister Qualtrough and myself. We all work together in order to connect all of these pieces, if you will. How can we best help our partners, the farms, and the organizations that already exist in our communities that work to coordinate the welcoming of these temporary foreign workers in the country. And it is, in fact, in that perspective that there is support to farm producers, but also support to these intermediate organizations that is being announced. This $7.4 million that will help us improve infrastructure and also further support the migrant workers in their own language.
Prochaine question, next question on the line.
Thank you. The next question, la prochaine question est Kelsey Johnson from Reuters. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Thank you, ministers, for taking my question. My first question is for Minister Qualtrough. Mr. Qualtrough, would you, in terms of the gig and contract workers who do not qualify for EI right now, the Prime Minister mentioned a parallel program that's going to be created. How are you going to get that program in place by the end of August, and wouldn't you need parliamentary changes to do that?
Well, thanks for the question. So we'll be announcing more specific details in the weeks to come. But overall, as a framework, just like CERB, we know that there are people who will be able to transition easily back into EI, but others won't. So we will have a parallel benefit equal to EI, where people who we can't yet, and I emphasize yet, get into the EI system, they'll be able to access that benefit. We have it in place now in terms of the regulatory authorities to do this. We are exploring options that may require legislation. We'll have more details in the weeks to come. But the lack of complication is one of the strong points of this this conceptual framework that I'm speaking about today. We're not gonna do anything super fancy that means we can't deliver to Canadians. We're gonna move as many people by relaxing the entry requirements into EI onto EI, so they have immediate access to all the benefits and support the EI system offers, but there will be people despite that who can't get in. So we're going to create a parallel benefit, very much like the CERB, but with more EI-like components, which will allow people to have the same experiences even though they're not within the system.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is for Minister Bibeau. Minister Bibeau, there has been reports over the last couple of days about mysterious seed packages that have been received by Canadians, Americans. I think the Australians have also gotten packages now. The Ontario Police said that it was from China and Taiwan. Can you confirm that the Canadian seeds received have been from China and Taiwan? And also, are you concerned about the possibility of invasive species arriving in Canada because of these seeds?
We're not at the point that we can confirm anything yet. Of course, we are concerned, so that's why I would encourage everybody who has received this type of seeds, the unknown seeds, to return it to the Canadian Inspection, CFI, Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And please do not open it and do not plant it.
Okay, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. That would conclude our press conference today. Unless, there's other questions on the floor. I do apologize. Come forward. We have one. Ashley Burke from CBC, please.
Hi, Dr. Tam. Given that this app is voluntary and so far it's been rolled out in one province, I understand there might be more to come. How many Canadians, what percentage do you need for them to sign up for this to be successful? And how much are you counting on this working?
I think the app is being launched in Ontario at the moment, but other provinces.
And that is Dr. Theresa Tam talking about the new app that is being launched in Ontario for this COVID alert is being launched. It's a federal government initiated alert, but it's starting in Ontario, and $59 million for the health and safety of migrant farm workers. You're watching CBC News Network. We have much more ahead. Stay with us.